And happy podcasting day, everybody. Gentlemen, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I mean, we're welcoming in the NFC West leading 6-3 Seattle Seahawks. What could be better, right? They've already surpassed the Las Vegas early season over-under projection on wins. They were set at 5.5 at the beginning of the year. I hope people put some money down on the over and are very happy with their winnings.
Don't it feel good?
I look at it this way personally. I put our floor at 6, so I'm already... Everything else is a bonus. I had our floor at 6, I had our ceiling at 9, and there's a good chance that they're going to break that ceiling.
Yeah, I was about the same way. About the same place.
I can't remember what we actually talked about. We actually gave hard numbers. Wasn't Birdfinger supposed to be in charge of writing our predictions down?
Yeah,
Birdfinger, you need to be getting your shit together and writing my predictions down so you can make fun of me later.
Do we have we've scored the most points in the league at this point? No, it's 2 behind Kansas City.
Yeah.
I think we're number 1 in the NFC.
Yeah. Which is crazy to think about. Like you add in the fact that they scored 7 points on a special teams play in one game and 0 other offensive points, and they're number 1 in the NFC. Geno just, man, like another solid game. He had his first really, really bad interception of the year, but
that wasn't really bad. What?
Really bad because of the results. Like the play itself.
Oh, okay.
I think the defender made a great play, right?
I was gonna say. There's 2 ways of taking what you said. My bad. Okay, sorry. I'll throw it up.
I think it's fair to say
it was a bad result. Definitely a bad result.
I don't think Geno made the bad read. I think that was kind of like, I look at that play. That is the play that Russell Wilson threw in the wildcard playoff game against the Rams, where it's just like, it's just like somewhat of a quick read. You're just going here, and like that's your outlet. And the defense just made a great play. Hats off to them. We suck at screens, stop doing it. But even if that ball wasn't intercepted and it goes to Kenny Walker, there's like 2 guys in front of him, and he has to juke 2 defenders, just to get like a little bit past the line of scrimmage. So
right, but that's a play design. Like you've sort of got to decide you're throwing it before. You're basically deciding it pre-snap. So it's not. I mean, everyone's all that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the biggest blemish of the game for Geno, and he counters it with 3 straight touchdown drives of like 11, 10, 13, and like 5 plays, and they took like
13, I believe.
Yes, something crazy, and it was like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and then a minute.
13 play drives. It was amazing.
And then the last drive only took 1 minute and 20 seconds, is because Arizona used all 3 timeouts, and Seattle still scored.
Yeah.
So
I mean, when you have a juggernaut at quarterback, an all-time great from birth like Geno Smith, I mean, good things are just going to happen, man.
I mean, from week 4, where that's when we were juggernauting. I don't know if I'd say all time, but
what are you talking about, dude? Like they hustled the whole world in the off season. They hustled the whole. Everybody's like, "Oh, they're tanking," and like Pete Carroll has spent like 4 years building. Like for 4 years, they've signed Geno Smith to 1-year contracts, right? Like Pete sees this coming. He sees it coming. Not quite sure what. It's like a volcano getting ready to explode, but you're not quite sure when. So he just keeps it, and then finally, just as Pete knew, just as we all inevitably knew, Geno Smith, super weapon.
I think the analogy is that Pete Carroll is the doomsday prepper, and Geno Smith was his bunker. So I get it. I believe.
I don't think it's coincidence that like I said, the fact that he gave him a 1-year contract even this year speaks to the fact that he wasn't all in. Just like when we pretend that we were geniuses and saw Russell Wilson, but if you really knew what Russell Wilson was going to be for us, you don't wait till the 3rd round. Actually,
right?
Pete Carroll is a prepper, and the stadium is his bunker, and Geno Smith is his astronaut ice cream.
Ooh. Oh, man. Child of the 80s reporting in right now. Astronaut ice cream. Everyone wanted to go to space camp back in the 80s. I wanted to. I for sure did.
Exactly.
I watched the Challenger happen live, so I wasn't into it, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I could see that really like scaring a lot of people with like, you know what, maybe space travel's not for me.
I was on the Challenger. I was lucky to get out of there.
They checked your boarding pass and said, "This you got the wrong date. You're on tomorrow's flight. You gotta give up your seat."
Yep.
You don't have a passport like Kenny Walker.
Man, we got a lot to talk about. It was a really, really great game. It's just another string of, that game was close for a good portion of the game, but Seattle just kind of took control, and it's just another game this year where it's just been really entertaining, a lot of fun, and just a lot of things to be excited about. So the NFC West leading Seattle Seahawks sweep their division rivals, the Cardinals, in dominating fashion, and rather than salt the clock away, they just efficiently moved down the field to close out the game. The Seahawks now face a sub-500 NFC South leading Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who look to build off of a climactic win over the LA Rams. But not all division leaders look the same, because you look at the Seahawks, you look at the Bucs, and I think you see very two different style of teams. And while the Bucs have the GOAT in Tom Brady, the Seahawks have Geno, who has surprised all expectations and has become the face of the team. No one could have expected this much success, but the Seahawks now travel to Munich for the first international game in Germany. This is a Hawkscast.net podcast. With me, as always, is Zeb and Ross. I'm Sam. Check us out at Twitter at Seahawks Podcast, Seahawks Forum. Gentlemen, I think we need to go straight into topic number one. And Zeb, I'm going to kick it off to you first. Can anything or anyone stop Geno Smith?
Oh man, it's still a fairly small sample size, but God, with every week, my confidence in him grows, and it's really starting to look like that he's legit. He's the real deal. You can say one thing about 2 or 3 games, but we're 6-3 right now, and since things started to come together, he has not let up. He just keeps making good decision after good decision, good throw after good throw, just doing the right things, and just being more than you could really hope for in your starting quarterback. It's astronomical. It blows my mind. I don't want this to end. And I don't see. I don't know. What could stop him?
So you say what could stop, and I think that's a really fair question, and I'm probably in that same mindset as you are. What do you think it is about this version of Geno that we're seeing this year that seems like he is not going to stop? Because the thing that I think about is I look at what Geno's doing to the game with the Seahawks and the offense. Credit to Shane Waldron, credit to the offensive line, credit to the players, but mostly to Geno. Like, is there anything that you feel is kind of gimmicky, or like, oh, this is like how they're protecting Geno? He's got 2 rookie tackles, a rookie running back. Is there anything you think that like they're doing to kind of like cover for his like shortcomings or like things that he's not good at?
Well, I mean, I think it's and the world sees it now that our 3 tight end set is virtually unstoppable, and I think having that in your arsenal can make up for a lot of things. Now, because we've seen that pocket collapse around him. I think the offensive line is playing really well, and we do have 2 rookies at tackle, so it's understandable that they're not going to be perfect. And we've seen that happen. But every time it does, they do something different next to keep that from happening. They go to the 3 tight ends. They do one of those seemingly unstoppable bootleg rollouts or whatever it is where he hits the tight end. And I think it just seems like it's been set up perfectly for him to succeed, and he's taking full advantage of it. And I just want to watch more. I just can't wait till the next game.
Ross, what about you? Can anything or anyone stop Geno Smith?
Yes.
Nope,
things.
that's not the answer. All right, show's over. We're done.
Stop the count.
Stop the steal.
There's one thing that could stop really Geno Smith in my mind, and that's Geno Smith. He occasionally gives into the dark side. We saw that Pete Carroll had to calm him one game. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's a high possibility. I'm just saying if Geno Smith, he's gotten he's gotten quite not aggressive. I don't want. He's a bit vocal now about things, and I wonder that there's some inner insecurities there that could take over again. I don't think it's a high possibility. I think he's got it. I think he's under control. I think he really is like a Jeff Hostetler, Rich Gannon. Like he spent his years maturing into this, and he's got it. But if we're gonna say, can anything stop him? Yeah, like it's every day you're competing against yourself, and if he gets satisfied with success, that could hurt it. If he starts feeling he has imposter syndrome, that could stop it. If he gives into some of the emotion that he sometimes feels, that could stop it. Those are the things he has to be mindful of. Do I think it's likely? No, I agree with Zeb. I think it's real. It's funny because I watched this past week's game 3 times, the 40-minute version, and his decision making. I mean, Shane Waldron. Like it's where we're coming to with my second thing. Shane Waldron, in a sense, is gonna owe Geno Smith a lot of money because with Russell Wilson running the offense, Russell Wilson only runs Russell Wilson's offense. This isn't a shot. Okay, Russell Wilson was successful doing what he does, but Geno Smith runs the actual offense as designed. He doesn't have the creativity of Russ, so that means he just runs the plays. He just runs what's there, and no pride or any other mitigating factors that influence the thing. And so all of a sudden this year, Shane Waldron's offense looks pretty goddamn good too. Really good. My fear now, and this is the second thing, is the other threat is that we lose our offensive coordinator in the offseason, and next year we get one that's not as good, and that they're not creative, and it becomes a system that Geno's not good with. So that's for the future, but that's when this happens. You sometimes become victim of your own success, and our offensive coordinator and our quarterback coach right now are going to be looking pretty awfully good to some people.
I think that's a good call out. That one of the things that we've talked about, not only about the Seahawks team, but other teams that have gone through big successes, when you start losing your offensive or defensive coordinators or your position coach, that's when you actually start to be a little bit weaker because you're resetting with culture. You're trying to either promote from within for people that have been with the program or understand it, or you're trying to get retreads. It's always hard to find like new and up and coming coaches and bring them into the system because there's a certain carousel and there's a lot of poaching aspect to it. The thing that I want to point out that all of us have said, and I'm just going to reiterate, is none of us have said that this is like somehow a dumbed down or training wheel style offense. This is the offense legitimately. This is what they can do. This is their success. This is how they are able to execute at will. Like that 3 tight end set that they have just looks so good. They can do so many things out of that set. They can pass, they can play action, they can run, they can go wide, they could put their tight ends in routes. Last week we predicted who was going to have the most yards. I don't think any of us predicted that it would be the tight ends, who had 10 combined catches, 126 yards, and 7 first down catches. That was our tight ends last week, which if you had that as one person, that'd be like, oh, that's all pro player catching that many catches, that many yards, getting first downs. They didn't get any touchdowns, but for whatever reason, it's just DK and Tyler that get touchdowns, and it's the first downs and the catches that go to the tight end. So with that, I feel as if what makes us so great is that it's not a gimmick. We're not trying to hide any deficiencies with Geno. Like, he's got 2 offensive tackles on the outside, so it's not like he's got the benefit of having a super veteran line. So shout out to Andy Dickinson, the offensive line coach. I'm overly impressed with Geno. the things that could stop Geno and this offense are more theoretical than they are actual, because we've seen teams blitz him. We've seen teams try and go all kinds of ways to stop Geno, try and load the box, play press coverage, try and take away DK and Tyler, try and take the running game away. And those tight ends are like this great equalizer because they are so valuable, and Geno's just using them so well. Like, the thing that impressed me the most, and this is not so much Geno, but the players that he's playing with, on that final drive, where they wanted to not only milk clock, but like use the Cardinals timeouts, every single player stayed in bounds. Every single player had a chance to go up the sidelines, get a few yards if they'd ran out of bounds, but every single one of them stayed in bounds and kept the clock running, forced Arizona to take their timeouts, and basically gave them no shot. So credit to the offense, and more so credit to Geno, because what he's doing I feel is legit. I'm excited. It's making me very, very happy with all of these games, because we're just seeing it kind of like work as I think anyone would want to see their offense run. So credit to Shane Waldron as well.
So you're saying you want Drew Lock to start in Munich?
Man, I mean, I think I, like a lot of people, thought, oh yeah, they'll let Geno play, but once he can't do a whole lot, because we've seen that version of Geno as well, where the offense just kind of stalls, and he does all the right things, but they can't convert first downs, or they'll get like 7 yards when they needed 8. And then they would say like, oh, you know what, we need a spark. We need to put Drew in there, and then Drew would come in, but then he'd make too many mistakes like we saw in his final preseason game, and then Geno would come back into the fold. This version of Geno is just, he's honestly a top 5 MVP candidate. It's really remarkable to see his numbers stacked up against anyone, and there's not a lot of players that he's like, if you just looked at the numbers, there's not a player in the NFL that you can't say like, wow, those numbers are impressive. Let's reveal the names. Like, oh, I did not expect Geno to be there. That's even more impressive.
I think that all of us at one point thought that this offense could be successful with Geno. That if he just played within the system, didn't make mistakes, was safe, get the ball to your playmakers and let them make plays, that we would be okay with Geno. But I don't think anybody saw him pushing the ball down the field the way he does. Some of those deep throws, like, that's so out of left field for, I think, most of us.
Yeah.
I want to ask that question. I noticed from, I think it was 3 years ago, he seems to be putting even more air under it. I feel like he's gone back and he's copying, not in a bad way. I think he's learned from Russell Wilson's deep ball a little bit. Am I imagining that? But do you see the angle he takes on the deeper throws? He doesn't take like he did last year or even at the beginning of the season. He's ratcheting it up and rainbowing it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible.
I think that's like a good call out, but that also, to me, that speaks of that Geno is doing this in a multitude of ways. He's doing it at the line of scrimmage. He's doing the short checkdowns. He's doing the intermediate throws. He's doing it off play action. He's doing it on a deep throw. He's doing it on the medium. Like, if you look at his passing chart, where he throws the ball and where it goes, it's all over the field. It's not like, he only goes to one section. It's not like Russell Wilson where it's like a U shape, where it's deep balls along the sidelines and a few like on outside the hashes. Like,
it's not a Kyler Murray Russell Wilson special. No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, like there were so many passes where he was under duress, where the pocket was collapsing, and he stays in the pocket for a long time, and he still found his tight end. He still found his running back, and he's giving them chances to make plays, and that's really what you want out of a quarterback. So, overly impressed.
The last thing I want to say on the topic is also like how he's been so impressive that things keep coming up that I don't think people are even intending to, like, okay, we've picked on Russ a bit on purpose on certain things, but now other stuff is just coming up as a result of Geno's play that ends up being additional shade thrown at Russ that we didn't, but we don't, it's not intentional. Like this week, the whole, everybody's been talking about like, why, and finally he was asked, Pico was finally asked, like, last year and the year before, it seemed like almost every play, we're just barely getting the play out in time on offense. We're just barely getting the playoff on time. But this year, Geno's up at the line with 12 to 13, sometimes 17 seconds left on the play clock. How is that possible? Like, what's different? And Pete Carroll is like, oh yeah, well, he's got the plays on his wristband or on the wrist card, and that's something we didn't do in the past. We couldn't do that because, and he didn't say anything in a really negative way. He was trying to be political about it or whatever, but he said there was some resistance in the past, and you get to see like Russell Wilson, like, no, I am the man. I know everything. I don't have to have the card on my thing. Like, but Russ, remember like last game we had to say that play 3 times. We got the delay a game because you couldn't get the play. No, I'm fine. I know every play. But you don't. You were taking forever to get the play in every time, which also meant you couldn't audible. But then it meant you turned around and said like you didn't have the power to audible. But like you don't have the time to audible. So yeah. But again, like it ends up being shade thrown at Wilson, and that's not cool in a sense. But it's cool to see like there are even answers. Like you're not imagining it. Yes, the play is actually getting in smoother and faster this year. And again, that's going to make Shane Waldron either this offseason or next offseason a lot of money.
Yeah,
that dude's going to now be a head. He's now going to be a head coaching. We were the top scoring offense in the AFC with Geno Smith. People are going to be like, oh my God, that guy's a genius.
You know what? If Shane Waldron gets a head coaching job from Seattle, shout out to him. He is the only coach that I think I dislike the most. And if he ends up proving me wrong, I will be very happy with that.
He's already proven you wrong. You need to change your perception. We're the top scoring. We are the top scoring offense.
He could crash and burn in these last 8 games. Like, let's give it a full year before we say like he's automatically a head coach. All right,
it's an interesting thing, man. That you're sold like you're sold on Geno already, but you're not sold on Shane.
I've given Shane so much credit since I've accepted that I've been wrong about him. Okay. I'm allowed to still make fun of him and cash in my priors. I am allowed. We're moving on. I will not stand for this.
How about the quarterback's coach? Why isn't that dude just being shouted out?
I think because it's like, is it still? Actually, I don't even know who our quarterback coach is now.
Right?
It used to be Dave Canellis, but I don't think he's there anymore.
Yeah, I think it still is him.
Okay, so I mean, good times. Credit to him as well.
Like, how is that dude not just like getting parades thrown and shit?
I think it's also the nature of like it's always going to be the head coach, the offensive and the defensive coordinators that get the most love. Position coaches, they need to rise to a coordinator rank before people will really think of them seriously, which is why like Shane Waldron was a quarterback coach. He wasn't an offensive coordinator before he got hired. You're taking a chance on the position coach if you're not going with a retread. So
quick, who's the senior offensive assistant?
Desai? Is it Desai?
It's Nate Carroll.
Oh,
it's the nepotism dude.
Nepotism.
Classic Pete.
Fire Pete.
Fire everybody. All right, let's move on to topic number 2. Ross.
Holy sorry, last thing.
We gotta move on.
This is amazing. Kerry Joseph. Do you remember Kerry Joseph?
Yes.
Mediocre defensive back. Somehow he's our assistant QB coach.
Yeah. And Deshaun Shedd is on the staff, and so is Aaron Curry.
Right, but how is a mediocre...
and Will Tukuafu is also on the coaching staff.
Right, that's not confusing to me. I mean, it's just confusing that Kerry Joseph is a quarterback's coach. Not that confusing.
Anyway. Did you say assistant quarterback's coach?
Yeah, okay. But still.
All right.
I think he was a quarterback at some point, probably
maybe high school or something.
Yeah, he could have been like Cam. Cam was recruited to Virginia Tech to play quarterback, so takes all kinds. Anyway, topic number 2, Ross. I want to know which rookie will end up being the best from this draft class. I feel as if there's a lot of the rookies that we're talking about that are obviously playing great, but does that necessarily mean that they will be the best of this entire class? Because you look at the 2012 class. Bobby was probably the one that I think people thought of as was going to be all-time great, and then it was Russ, and then, there is some ebb and flow to that. In this 2022 class...
It depends on how you define best because
however you want to characterize best, whether it's the best career, best Seahawk, best single season, who do you think is going to be the best if you had to make a guess now?
it's probably going to be Lucas or Cross, right? Because they're offensive linemen and they can play for 15 years. But like flash in the pan, not even flash in the pan, but like shining brighter for a shorter time. I don't think there's much doubt it's Walker. But man, I could also see one of the cornerbacks. I mean,
wow, way to pick everybody, Ross. Come on.
I know, right? I'm gonna go with
one.
I'm gonna make it a nicer story. I'm gonna go with Lucas.
That's who I would have picked.
Sorry, I mean he's the 3rd round pick, not the 1st round pick. So I think Cross is going to be awesome as well. But I always love the irony that when you take 2 positions, the guy that you pick in the later round ends up being better, like Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I always like that irony. So I'm just going to go with Abe Lucas there. But I mean, holy cow! I mean, it's a pick 'em. I mean, like you can't go wrong picking one of those guys. You can make a legitimate case for 5 guys probably. So yeah, I mean maybe 6 guys for Jesus. I don't think it's too early to know, but by the nature of the position and the fact that like Penny was signed to a 2-year contract, right?
1 year. He's a free agent.
Is he a free agent?
Yeah.
I thought it was a 2-year. Okay, that changes things.
Yeah. He got a little bit less money than he would have if they had extended his option, I believe.
Okay, so I was going to say because if Penny's on a 2-year contract and he comes back next year, he's going to get some carries, and that's going to take away something from Walker. But now they'll probably just let him go. But I'm still going to stick with Lucas. I like I like Lucas out there. Right tackle, yeah. Still, I'm going with Lucas.
All right, Zeb. Before Ross starts picking everyone else from the draft class, who would you say could potentially end up being the best? And again, best is subjective as possible.
Yeah, I'm going to go. This is a little bit, I'm just a little bit biased, but I'm going to go with Tariq Woolen. I think, if I had to guess, I think Cross is going to have the longer, more distinguished career, but I think Tariq Woolen, for at least a handful of seasons, is going to be an absolute monster for us. He may not get the numbers because I think people are already avoiding throwing to his side. But I think he's on his way to being a legit shutdown corner, and I think that's something that that Pete's defense needs, is somebody who can do that. Like we remember what it was like. We were spoiled rotten with the Legion of Boom, and I think he's that level of talent. So obviously lots of good choices in this, but Tariq's my guy.
Again, another solid choice. I don't think you can really go wrong with Abe Lucas or Tariq Woolen, and those would have actually been my number 1 and number 2 picks. This is what happens when you always ask other people their opinions first, and they get to go in last. So I will rather than repeat, I will echo and say yes, I agree with both of you. To add a little bit, the case that I would make for Abe Lucas is why he was my initial number 1 is because not only is he's similar to Tariq in the fact that he was drafted later and he was not expected to start. Like, he was not a clear-cut guy that was going to get the starting gig right away. So he has that kind of underdog story that he battled in camp, he battled in the preseason games, and he just continued to look good. So I think that kind of elevates kind of the story of it all. But the other thing is, I can't recall the last time I've heard a penalty called on Abe Lucas. Like, Cross has had a couple. I can remember those. But I can't remember Abe Lucas getting called on a penalty. No false starts, no holding. He's basically invisible, and that's like the dream you would want out of your offensive lineman. So I think that in itself is so promising, and if he can just like incrementally increase off of that, I think that puts him as a chance to be best of all time. Tariq's he's not getting targets. Like, I think in the last game, DeAndre Hopkins, he got a touchdown, but that was on a crossing play. That wasn't even against Tariq. Tariq for the most part, limited DeAndre Hopkins. Outside of his one touchdown, he only had like 5 to 15 yards beyond that one touchdown. And this is a guy that was targeted 12 times in a previous game and caught 11 for like a touchdown and 117 yards. So teams are respecting how dangerous Tariq is. Again, he's not a guy that's just like a flash in the pan. He's doing it really well. You know, he's getting beat on deep crosses, which is, you know, the running traffic, and he's kind of like navigate traffic, and then, you know, that's creating natural separation. But he's not getting beat on one-to-one, especially when it's any plays on the outside. He had a great pass deflection against DeAndre Hopkins on a crucial third down play. And he was actually, you could see it, he was upset that he didn't get the interception. So I think that alone shows that Tariq could be the best of the class. So finally, I will go with Charles Cross. There's pressure being the number one pick in the draft. There's pressure when you are the number one guy that the team puts all of their eggs into, because you get the most name recognition, you get the most publicity, you also have the most expectations. So that in itself, while Charles Cross hasn't been perfect, he has been far better than I thought he would be. And I think he's actually one of the best tackles out of the left tackles, especially, that were drafted in the first round. Evan Neal on the Giants, he's been injured. Trevor Pennington, he's been injured. There's other tackles, and they're not being talked about at all, which, you know, is pretty common for offensive linemen. But Charles Cross is just continuing to get praise from his teammates, from the coaches, and from local beat reporters, that he's doing everything you would want out of your left tackle, and he's doing it at a young age, and also in a system that he didn't play. He didn't play in a, you know, 3 tight end set. He didn't play with a running back that's going to get the ball off tackle. He played in a spread offense, and I think he's doing a great job. So I think that is a potential reason why Charles Cross is. I don't think he is going to be, but I think that's a good case as to why he can be. And he's a left tackle, so he could play for like another 10, 15 years, and we'll just be like, yeah, that guy played forever, and he's awesome. And that's always a great thing to have.
It sure is.
Yeah. All right. We are going to move along.
I was going to say, oh, never mind. I'm going to say.
You know,
Abe Lucas was called for, like, you can't remember a penalty that's called an Abe Lucas, but, like, it was the first game, so it's totally forgivable. But against the Broncos, like, DK made that 52-yard touchdown catch, and it was called back because Abe Lucas was, like, 6 or 8 yards downfield when the ball was thrown, like, totally. And then he got called in the holding penalty on Penny's, like, 22, 23-yard run.
Okay.
Like, first game, it was a little bit rough. And that's to be expected. I'm just saying, like, there are penalties out there. But, yeah, like, together, Lucas and Cross are only responsible for 6 sacks up to now.
So,
and we're games into the season. That's amazing.
According to PFF.com, Lucas has had 5 penalties and 4 sacks allowed. Which, we're talking about 9 games. To me, that's still pretty spectacular. And then if we pull up Charles Cross has had 5 penalties and 4 sacks allowed. So I don't know if they're being lazy and they're just treating them as the same person, or if they have exactly identical stats. So still really exciting stuff. I think the fact that we have 3 players that we could legit say, like, yeah, these could be one of the best out of the class, that's always great to have. But we are going to move ahead. We are going to go and move to topic number 3. Zeb, topic number 3. Who is more likely to win an award at the end of the year? Geno, Pete, or John? I mean, we could even throw in Kenny Walker and Tariq Woolen in there. Of all of those, who should win an award? Who deserves it?
Well, I think they all deserve an award at this point of the season.
Okay, slow down. Let's not Ross. Not Ross our answers here and just say everybody.
But listen, we do have legit Rookie of the Year candidates on both sides of the ball. Obviously, Pete and John have been skipped over before for awards they probably deserve, and I don't think that changes this season because they're already talking about other coaches and other GMs being frontrunners for that award. Because for whatever reason, everybody likes to talk great about Pete and John, but when it comes to these awards, they're always picking somebody over them. I think Geno has the most legit shot at winning the comeback player of the year because there are so few real good comeback stories this year, and it just makes a lot of sense. Now, obviously, there's that argument that he's not coming back from an injury or something like that. He's just coming back from not being very good before.
He's coming back from being Geno Smith Part A.
Yeah, but
coming back from opportunity.
But yeah, but I think the performance itself is enough to sell it. Like I said, I don't know who else is in the conversation for comeback player of the year.
Saquon.
And I don't.
Saquon Barkley is one of the front runners, but here's my issue.
But he played last year also.
Saquon played 13 games last year.
Yeah.
It is 2 years ago where he played only 2 games.
Right. But of course, people will probably muddy all that and it'll be foggy in their memory exactly how all that worked out. He'll get votes. But again, comeback player of the year isn't necessarily the most prestigious of the awards. But I think at this point, Geno is probably the front runner for it.
Ross, what about you? You look at these awards, there's Coach of the Year, Executive of the Year, Defensive Rookie, Offensive Rookie, MVP, Comeback Player. Geno, Pete, John, Tariq, Kenneth. Who is likely to win an award and who should win?
I don't like the wording of the question this time. I'm sorry.
All right. Feel free to object.
I object. I know, because the thing is, like, if we continue even somewhat on the course, the trajectory that we're on right now, there's a bunch of hardware that's going to be passed around to Seattle. Like you guys said, like we have the front runners for both rookie, offensive and defensive rookie of the year. Woolen may not get it just because, as you've noted, I said this a couple weeks ago and you guys were outraged. I said Woolen's not going to have another interception the rest of the year. And you guys were like, ooh. And I'm like, I've told you he's not going to. So I worry that he kind of shot his shot a little early and was flashy too early. But we do have a legitimate chance of both the defensive and rookie players of the year. Comeback player of the year. Now, when you get to John and Pete, the theory is that they sort of they've hurt each other, because in every other situation where the GM and the coach don't work as well together, one of them stands out. Like, oh, that GM is the architect of the team, or that head coach is the architect of the team. And you get to Seattle, and Pete loses votes because of the people who think that John does some of it, and John loses votes because people think that Pete does it. And there's not an award for, like, best GM head coach cooperation or something. And so they tend to, like, defeat each other. And that's why I believe that they don't get these awards, right? And I don't know why that would change this year. You're still going to have people saying, the people who actually vote, there's still going to be the people who are in Pete's corner or think that it's mostly about Pete, and some people think it's just about John. Or we'll just say, like, they're a team. How can you just give it to Pete? So I don't think that they'll win. They should. I mean, the trade alone should win them that. Like, this should. But I think we're in line to win a whole bunch of hardware that we didn't even get back during our Super Bowl winning season, because this year there's just more standout players that have key individual performances that are more obvious, I think. So, yeah, I think we're in a line for a bunch of hardware.
Yeah. I will concede to Ross that this is a tough question, because it's not about necessarily what we as fans want, because we want our players to get recognized for all the hard work and all the effort and the accolades that they deserve. Geno not getting comeback at the player of the year, like, people are saying, like, oh, he didn't come back from anything. He just didn't get to play, so that's not something to overcome. It's like, but
like, if you weren't very good last year, why should we give you an award because you're good this year?
But that's the thing. That's what usually happens with the coach of the year. Whoever takes the team and has the most win improvement, they get it, even though they're not even necessarily the best team. That's like, oh, you went from 5 wins to 11 wins or 10 wins, and you fought. You got a wild card rate. So.
That is such a good point, right? That is such a good point, Sammy, because that's exactly what it usually goes to. Like, somebody like, wow, you really sucked so bad last year that we had literally no expectations for you this year.
Right, and that's kind of my issue, and to your point is that's a big reason why Pete and John probably will likely never win an award. The reason why they won't win an award is because there are questions about like who's really the executive, who's
Who's the architect? Yeah.
who's the architect from the executive standpoint. When it comes to coaching, it's always like, well, we don't give it to whoever has the best record, and when we do give it to the best record, it's only because we didn't expect them to be good in the first place. Like,
That's where we do have one hope, and you would say in some ways we legitimately deserve it more than others on your,
But-
with your super solid argument.
But what will happen is, if there's an undefeated team like the Eagles are right now, that coach is going to get the award. Whoever can, if you can finish the league with 1 or 2 losses, you will often get the award over someone who who overcame more, just because the way they do it is weird. Like when Pete,
I wouldn't be mad. I mean,
when Pete won in 2013, when they went 13-3, Pete lost to, I believe, Ron Rivera, and when they went 12-4 the next year, he lost it to, who'd he lose it to? He lost it again, and he lost it to someone ridiculous. He lost to Bruce Arians. So he lost to Ron Rivera in 2013. He lost it to Bruce Arians in 2014. And then Mike Smith, he won it in 2012 when the Falcons were just, they had like the best record, even though Pete was one of the teams that took them from a 7-9 win team that no one really thought of to an 11-5 team that was super dangerous in the playoffs. So that's kind of always a problem with these awards. It's not about who should win, because it never goes to the person that should win often. It goes to whoever's like the most interesting story, and maybe that's because a lot of these awards are actually cast by journalists and writers, not necessarily like true sports executives or people in the team. That's what Richard Sherman's always said. All Pro is one of the best awards to receive because it is recognized as the top, and there is a component where it's voted on by the players. So maybe that has some merit to it. But the final point I want to talk about is the fact that Sauce Gardner and the New York Jets are equally at 6 wins already, and that teams are still throwing to him. That is going to give him a lot of opportunity to ride that wave of just mentions and coverage and just being in a bigger market than Seattle. I think that puts Tariq in a really, really bad disadvantage because, like you said, Ross, if teams don't throw to him, he's not going to get opportunities. And while maybe other teams and coaches will say, like, that's the guy you got to watch out for, versus like, well, we'll throw it up to him anyway because we think we can beat him. And, you lose some of that, that's maybe why Sauce Gardner will win. So I think it's unfortunate, but ultimately they're fun. They're not going to make or break our year if we don't get any hardware, because it's not about those trophies. It's about something more. Final thoughts about awards.
Who cares?
Oh, there it is. There it is.
But give us all of them.
I care to the degree that, like when Bruce Arians won, it was a true gut shot. Like that guy, I would like Pete again. I explained why I also believe that he won't win it, but man, Pete deserves some recognition for what he's really, really done, and not just on the football field. There's just no way of awarding that, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that it's going to come down to Pete probably knows who he is, and he doesn't need that recognition in the way that we want him to be recognized. And that's another reason why he's such a good coach.
And that's Pete. But that's the thing. Like, it's not because I think he needs it. I feel like Pete's influence on the game has not been. Did you watch the movie Moneyball? I've asked this question a couple.
I've read the book and watched the movie.
Okay, so the movie's. The book is a lot better, but the movie's well acted and well done, and Brad Pitt's character keeps saying, says more than once that if they don't win the last game of the season, people aren't going to believe in what they've done. The reason I want Pete Carroll to win more recognition is I believe in some ways this year should show it again and again and again. His influence on the game isn't in correspondence to what he's actually accomplished. he should be revolutionizing the game on a higher level than he has. And he's not, because people resist it. A lot of what he does is anti-traditional football culture. And the reason I want him to get recognition is because it is a copycat league. And if he can get the recognition to a certain level, the acknowledgement of his peers, then some of what he does will be copied. Because there should be more teams out there that have this philosophy of positivity around them, of encouragement rather than beating people down, of individuality and bringing out the best in your players more than conforming them to your system. And and until Pete is recognized, I mean, even if that's why that second not winning that second Super Bowl even hurts, especially who we lost it to.
Yeah.
Because if you win that second Super Bowl and you win back-to-back, now you're established. But instead, you lose it to Bill Belichick, and everybody goes, yeah, see, at the end of the day, it's a Bill Belichick's game. It's a Bill Belichick world. And it's unfortunate because Pete, like I said, should have more influence in the world of football, in my opinion. Sorry to get all deep.
I think that's fair. I think it's a fair kind of, I don't know how to characterize it. It's like a black mark against the league. You know, it's a flaw in the award system itself, but I think that's also true when it comes to any kind of voting system. It's like the Oscars or any awards. Like, if you think back about it, it's like, how did this person win that award? And I think you could go down the coach of the year, executive of the year, and say, like, how did this person win that award? There are so many other deserving players, even if it's not your own guy. Like, honestly, like, Bill Belichick probably should have won Coach of the Year multiple times. I think he's only won it twice. And he had to go 16-0 one time to win to win Coach of the Year. So, very, very difficult circumstances to live up to. But we are going to trudge along, and we are going to get to topic number 4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, Ross, is this one for you? Are you starting this topic?
Sure.
Okay. My question to you: can this Seattle defense be the one to help end Tom Brady's storied NFL career? This year, Tom Brady is a shell of himself. He won that game against the Rams last week, but he had to throw the ball 58 times. I feel like anytime you have to throw that many times, it's not going to be great. And not only did he throw 58 times, he only had like a 4.4 yard per attempt. That's half of what Geno does. And Geno throws anywhere from like 30 to 35 times a game. So can this Seattle defense that we've seen improve week after week after week after week against some good offenses, can they be the one to help end Tom Brady's storied NFL career?
I mean, now that he's divorced, I'm not sure that Tom's even going to hang up after this year. I don't think we'll contribute anything in some big way to, like, I mean, like, we broke RG3. We stopped his career before it started, in a sense. But I don't think we'll have that sort of influence on Tom Brady. I don't think you can influence Tom Brady that way. We can be another chapter in the book of, you know, should Tom have hung it up already this year, that people are starting to say that. But I don't think it's even going to have much to do with us. Like, that guy, for the first year ever, he doesn't seem like he's all in on football. I've never heard of him, like, missing practices or voluntarily taking days off or missing a practice to go to a wedding or losing 2 weeks of training camp to go deal with family issues. That's not Tom Brady. I mean, he kind of got the worst of both worlds. He still did all that and still lost his whole family. I think he's going to kind of regret some of his decisions this year. And it's all about Tom. But yeah, I think that we're going to give him a hard time. And we're going to be another nail in the coffin, perhaps. But I guess I'm nitpicking with the wording. I don't think we're going to be the ones to end it or even partially end his career because he's, you know, Father Time is doing that. But yeah, I think there's a potential, and maybe this is what you really mean. This is what you're getting at. Maybe I'm just too nitpicky, but I think there's a potential, the way our defense is playing later, that people would, like, at the end of the season point out to this game and say, yeah, man, I mean, he was having a bad year, but, like, look what he couldn't do against Seattle in Munich. And Yeah, maybe this is the game where people do really start to stir, because there's some background noise, but it really hasn't come all the way up to like, yeah, dude, you need to get out now yet. But yeah, maybe this is the game that does it. We have potential to do that. He's lost in velocity, so like if Tariq Woolen is gonna get another interception, this is maybe a better shot at it. I don't think we're gonna get a bunch of sacks. Tom Brady, you don't sack Tom Brady. Tom Brady gets rid of the ball within like 1.8 to 2.2 seconds, so you don't get sacks on Tom Brady much. But yeah, I think we could give him a hard time, and this could potentially be a game that people look back and go, yeah, see, he's done. He looks like what Geno Smith used to be. So that's it. Maybe.
So
maybe
to give you some insight here, Tom Brady has been sacked 14 times in 9 games, which doesn't seem like a lot. But in the previous 2 years in Tampa, he was sacked only 21 and 22 times. So already on a higher sack rate percent, and just across the board, his interception numbers are great. He's not throwing interceptions, but his touchdown rate has dropped almost more than half. It's dropped by like 60%. So
Chris Godwin doesn't have a touchdown yet this year.
He has 10 touchdowns through 9 games.
Yeah, I mean, kind of 1979 numbers there.
Yeah,
it's weird. I mean, like he looks weird. He's lost weight. He's had some weird plastic surgery. Lost his family. His wife's like publicly posting on social media about her vacations in the Caribbean or something. Like you just kind of wonder, like, is that dude now like hanging out like at like rookies' houses on the weekend in their apartment playing Madden with them now, just trying to be one of the like, what's that guy doing now? Like there's nothing at home. He goes home now after practice and there's an empty house. And that dude like consciously chose that because he couldn't. It's funny. The more he tries not to be Belichick, the more he is. Like he's gonna end up the greatest career of all time and not have enjoyed a single minute of it because he never got over the chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. Zeb, you look at the Seattle defense, what they've done over the past couple of weeks, how they've improved. Could you see them having a field day with an older Tom Brady who, while still accurate, he's not pushing the ball down the field. He's not scoring touchdowns at the same rate. He's just kind of a guy back there who can get the ball out really quickly, but he's also going to throw it 40-plus times a game at 5 yards a clip.
Yeah, I think he's in for a pretty long game, but I think Ross just about has the right of it. Like, we are probably going to be just another brick in the wall that eventually stopped Tom Brady. But barring major injury or something like that, I don't think this is going to be the game where people look back and go, that was the end of Tom, because we've seen this whole season has kind of been that for him. So even if we do make him throw a few picks and we beat them by a couple of touchdowns or whatever it is, it's kind of the way things have been going for him. So it's not. It would take a pretty impressively standout performance and some pretty big stuff for it to be, like the championship game against Tom Brady. The reason why he ended up retiring, or the reason why he sucks now.
Oh, Zeb, you're just making me so excited, because if that happens, if this is the game where Tom Brady says, you know what, we're done, I can't do it anymore, I got to retire mid-year because...
Or he gets benched halfway through the game or something.
Seattle just like eats him up, would be glorious.
It would.
I fully recognize that Tom Brady is literally the greatest quarterback in NFL history. There's no arguing his talent and his accomplishments. But as a person, yeah, I can't see that this is a person that I would be happy for any of my players to emulate, because it seems so shallow and hollow. Yeah, you great quarterback success, but like Ross said, if you can't enjoy it, what's the point? Like, you get all these accolades and you can't even like appreciate the moment. That seems like a rough way to live your life. the thing that excites me about this defense, it's probably not even about Tom Brady. It's just the fact that they are so limited. You look at the games that they've played. They scored 3 points against a Panthers team that just traded away their best player. There's a whole lot to question about why the odds maker are making this a game where the Bucs are predicted to be the favorite. I think earlier in the week they were like a 2.5 point favorite, and I believe that number has moved around. It might have gone to like 1.5. Let's see. The current line, it's actually moved up. It's actually negative. It's -3 to the Bucs. This is a neutral game, so there is a lot of money on the Bucs to cover this game, which I find to be very, very crazy. But I just don't see, with how Tom Brady has played this year, the fact that he's 45, the fact that this defense is just doing everything so well, and it's not just coming from one player. I think you have to recognize Uchenna Nwosu, you have to recognize Tariq Woolen, but there's other guys that are just consistently making plays. Like Kobe Bryant, that guy has the worst luck because he has 2 interceptions, but they get called back on defensive penalties, and I feel for him because I feel like he deserves to get into the interception column. It just hasn't happened yet. But he still leads the league in forced fumbles. So, this is maybe a game where Tom Brady can't get rid of the ball quickly, and maybe it's a game where, we send someone on the blitz and maybe Brady coughs the ball up. I think it will be great. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a really early game. Zeb, I know you're not a morning person either. Are you going to wake up at 6:30 and watch that game live?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not.
What?
I know. But I'm going to be in Anaheim. I have a whole day in California Adventure. And if I get up at 6:30 to watch that game, it's going to ruin my entire day. And that day is costing me a lot of money. So every once in a while, about once every 5 or 6 years, there's a Seahawks game that I'll miss for reasons like that.
I think those are at least valid reasons. California Adventure and spending that money to go down there and go to the theme park. That makes sense. I feel you. I know, Ross, you don't have to wake up at 6:30 this time. Like, you actually get to watch the game at like a normal hour, right? It's like what?
It's not a normal hour. It's 11:30 at night, but it's normal for me. I don't usually sleep till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's perfect for me.
Perfect bedtime story time.
It's awesome. Like now my debate is whether I'm going to stay up and watch the rest of the games, because I usually don't go to bed basically Sunday night here. I don't know if I'll watch the other games though, but yeah, I'm pretty stoked to watch a game at not at 4 o'clock in the morning, because you guys switched your time. This is from the.
Oh, I forgot to send you a reminder. Yeah, this is like a wholly different time for Ross.
I hate this. It doesn't sound like different, but NFL games, the first half of the season happen at 2 o'clock in the morning for me and at 5 o'clock in the morning. Second half of the season, they're at 3 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning. And even though it's just an hour, I don't know why, but 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock is so much harder to do. So much harder to do. So I'm upset, but I'm happy for this week's game. If we could play every game in Germany, I'd be happy. We just set it up, man.
Well, those are our topics. Final thoughts before we get to some predictions.
What a season so far.
Tariq Woolen's going to intercept Brady. I
like it.
Ooh, not in our predictions, but I will gladly accept that. All right, so
I think back to when Russ's rookie season and we beat Tampa Bay, and it kind of put us on the map. And Richard Sherman had a great game. And I just feel like...
Are you talking about the Tampa game, or are you talking about the New England game?
Oh, sorry, not Tampa, but the New
Patriots.
England game versus Brady, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that was a great game.
And
Sidney Rice catching the game winner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling those vibes.
It was beautiful. I jumped up off the couch and I threw my football that I was clutching at the wall and almost broke a window.
I mean, that's what these games feel like. I feel like, this 2022 year is just so exciting and so much fun. So, I mean, we've even said, even in the losses, it's still a fun game to watch. Whereas, like, in previous years, those losses, they hurt. They're like, it take like the whole day to like kind of like get over and move on to something new.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let's fire off some predictions. Ross, since you already started us off, let's get a final score. Seahawks at the Buccaneers. What is your prediction?
27-17.
Nice. That would be the fourth game in a row that the Seahawks have won by double digits. Fifth game in a row, the Seahawks would have won by double digits if that holds.
I don't think they can hang with us. I really don't.
Zeb, final score.
31-13.
Ooh, that's a beatdown, man.
Goddamn right it is.
I like that. I'm kind of in agreement with Zeb. I look at this offense and I look how strong it's been. You know, they're doing it in multiple different ways, but it always comes back to Geno hitting Tyler, Geno hitting DK, and Kenny Walker just, you know, getting clutch runs. I'm going to say it's going to be 35-21 Seahawks.
I'll take it.
Ross, who's going to have more touchdowns, Geno Smith or Tom Brady?
Well, you've kind of set that up there. It's got to be Geno.
Well, I mean, it could have all been Kenny, but yes, I think that's a fair. Zeb, who do you have getting more touchdowns?
Geno.
Yeah, I think it's Geno as well. Geno's been playing so well. If he continues to playing at the same level, I think it's an easy win, easy touchdown victory for Geno. Who's going to get more yards, Ross? Is it going to be Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, or is it going to be a combination of our three tight ends again?
Tyler Lockett.
Fair.
I'm going with the tight ends. Let's keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, I mean, they had 10 catches and they had like 12 targets. Something crazy. They caught almost everything, and that last run by Noah Fant, who I know I've been a little bit disappointed with this year, he had an amazing game. So to keep it different, I'm going to go with DK. I feel like DK is doing just everything you want out of him. I know a lot of people are maybe frustrated to the fact that he's not having like 10 catch games and 150 yards, but he's doing everything in this offense, and it's so natural, and he's doing it well. I think this is a game where he could get rewarded because while their corner has played really well recently for a while, DK has burned this corner before, so maybe this is a resurgence of that. Final prediction of the night, Ross, yes or no, is Kenneth Walker III, K9, going to run for another fourth quarter touchdown? He's got 5 in a row, I believe.
No. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
No. The downer.
Yes, absolutely. He's going to get one in every game he plays his entire career.
Dude, that would be Hall of Fame legendary if that were the case.
Yep. Write it down.
I feel as if this is a game that the Seahawks have a chance to actually win comfortably, especially in the manner in which they've been playing recently, offensively, defensively, and special teams. We almost had a defensive mishap with DJ Dallas. He almost muffed a punt return, but he got it back. I'm going to say yes, because they're going to just try and churn out the clock, and that offensive line and Kenny Walker, they're just playing so good. I could see him just like busting one late because their defense is just going to be gassed. They're not going to be able to get off of the field, and Kenny's just going to have a day. Prediction is yes. K9 scores another fourth quarter touchdown.
Hell yeah, brother.
And gentlemen, those are our predictions. Final thoughts before we get to some shout-outs.
Well, we're going to Germany.
Push him back. Heading to Germany, crossing the Rhine.
The Germans.
Yeah. Apparently, like Jermaine Kearse has some connection we're supposed to bring up, but what's Jermaine Kearse?
Yeah, so quick little shout out here on Twitter. Who tweeted at us? Someone tweeted at us about a story. Mark Arrington at @theking_diesel. He says, they say, Make sure to mention Jermaine's ties to Germany. 100, that would be wild if the Seahawks played there when he was still playing. Yes, if Jermaine Kearse was still actively playing in Seattle, that would be quite a career for Jermaine. I tried to do a quick Google search, and what I found was that somehow Jermaine Kearse got his photo in a German newspaper because his mom somehow pushed a story or a photo, and it got Jermaine in a German newspaper. So I apologize I don't have the more details, but Mark, if you're listening, definitely let us know what those details are. We'd love to hear about it.
Isn't there a German guy on our team right now?
There is a German guy on the team.
Yeah.
Yes. I think he's not an active player. I think he might be a practice squad guy.
Yes.
Okay. Auf Deutsch.
All right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Hold on a second. What?
What?
I'm just reading. Let's see. He has German roots. Like, I found another article right here. It's like they're actually like testing on his German language ability. Jermaine, let's start with some German for advanced students. Fans and teammates call you Mr. Clutch. Do you know what clutch means in German? I'm sorry, I have no idea. Okay. That's weird.
Oh, I saw there was an interview that he had with some German Seahawks fans.
So in Germany, we're going to call you Mr. Kuplung now. Kuplung.
You know, his name's almost German.
Yeah.
Germain.
That's French, I believe.
Yeah, but
whatever.
But I mean, it's close
France
to the. It's the
is
word
part
German.
of Germany. Yeah.
Germain.
At this point, we're just stretching for
Sorry about that.
for stuff.
Okay.
So we'll get some shout outs.
Shout out to who? Shout out to all the election workers that pulled off a pretty smooth election over in the U.S. and to the people who stopped what looked like it was going to be a red tsunami wave thing.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Shout out to German Curse.
I would also like shout out to Jermaine Kearse. One of the he almost had one of the most amazing Super Bowl catches, but it kind of got forgotten because of how that game ended in Super Bowl 49. But shout out to Jermaine.
I know a German curse. Scheisse.
Shout out to people that voted. You know, democracy survives for another year, so hopefully that continues. Shout out to Birdfinger for always being a great backbone to all we do on the podcast on the website. You could check us out at hawkscast.net. Go to Seahawks Forum, Seahawks Podcast on Twitter while it still stands. We'll never be verified, but you know, maybe someone wants to throw us some coffee money and we'll try it out for a month. We are the hawkscat.net podcast. I am Sam. With me as always is Zeb and Ross, and we wish you all a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.